Katherine G. MacRae, and this is my new show, Perspective. I'd like to welcome my first guest, Michelle McLeave Kennedy. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. It's nice to come here and talk to you.
Now, Michelle, you are newly elected as the NDP representative for the party, running for the party for the NDP for Sault Ste. Marie.
Yes.
How did that all come about?
So many years ago, actually, I was an injured worker and started navigating the system of trying to get benefits, which caused me to do something with my own union, with OSSTF. And I started advocating for myself, advocating for other workers, and I've been lobbying the government for approximately 10 years. And I saw the platform that the NDP has out, and right now was the right time, the right leader, and the right candidate. And here I am in Sault Ste. Marie, and I'm hoping that I'm going to bring it all back to Sault Ste. Marie, and I'll be your next MPP.
So just to clarify, the union, the OSSTF, stands for?
Ontario Secondary Teachers Federation. So I'm an educational assistant working with special needs students.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that with the special needs? That's quite a...
I've been working with special needs students for the school board for 15 years, but I worked at another job previous to that, so it's been almost 25 years I've been working with special needs.
And what were you lobbying the government for?
We were lobbying the government for workplace safety for all workers, lobbying for more money for services for students, more money for services, mental health services, et cetera, which aligns perfectly with the NDP platform and things that we need here in Sault Ste. Marie.
How? How does that work? How does your background in education with special needs students play into your candidacy as running for the NDP representative?
So in the years that I've been lobbying for my students, there's, as you know, there's been a wait list in Sault Ste. Marie for mental health services, for speech services, occupational therapy, et cetera. So working with young students and you don't have the services immediately, it's very difficult to teach them the things that they need to learn when we're waiting a year and a half to 2 years for service. So we would go down and lobby the government for funding for different agencies and different services, and it just fits naturally. There's money in the platform to look at those needs, so it just fits perfectly with what I wanted to do.
So especially now, I think more so than ever before, there's a major need for healthcare services and mental health care especially, and especially in Sault Ste. Marie, as has become apparent with the opioid crisis lately. What would you do as a representative if you were to win the seat for the NDP?
So you're quite right. There is an opioid crisis here in Sault Ste. Marie, and Andrew Horvath is committed to making Ontario an opioid center, and that it's a crisis situation here in Ontario, and money is going to be put forward. There is going to be a Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, which will offer services here in Sault Ste. Marie, which is quite an amazing feat. And we need those services, and we know that from the show that was done, as well as if you're in the field, you certainly know. So mental health money is going to help all of the citizens in Sault Ste. Marie that need those services when they're ready to have those services. We can't wait a year and a half to have a service to get mental health counseling. So we need to have more money in that, more frontline workers, and so that's part of our platform. It's all costed in our platform.
And is that something that could happen quite quickly if the NDP were elected?
Yes, it will happen quite quickly. As I said, it's costed in the platform, so the ministry will be established shortly after us taking over the government.
And what does your platform with the NDP offer as a whole for Northern Ontario? I hear a lot of concerns about everything going down south, and there's not a whole lot for Northern Ontario. I understand that you've got a Northern Ontario specific package in your platform.
So the NDP is the only party so far that does have a Northern Ontario platform, and it is all costed out for Northern Ontario. So there's the platform speaks about the economy, speaks about reducing the wait times and ending hallway medicine. It talks about broadband, bringing broadband services to Northern Ontario. It talks about food and water security, and then natural resources such as bringing transportation with rail and looking at things to bring more things into the economy. So once again, and it's been an issue in Sault Ste. Marie for a while, is bringing the rail back with Huron Central and Algoma Central Rail as well. And doing that whole loop and that would bring tourism back to Sault Ste. Marie as well as other economic issues.
I know the rail is a big concern here in Northern Ontario, and there's many groups lobbying to get rail back, and that's been ongoing for years already. Is that something that the NDP, if they were to be elected, could implement fairly quickly into the north?
Yes, it is something that we've talked about, and it's something, actually I sit also as Labour Council President, and we did support the coalition. The coalition was here earlier this month, and we did discuss the issues of getting a circle route back of all the rail systems. And we need it for transportation for people in the north. So yes, we could implement something quickly, and there is money to be put forward for that.
So is it a matter of just adding on the routes to the existing via rail trains, for example, to add the Northern Ontario route into the plan?
There would be some probably infrastructure issues as well, and getting some of the, making some agreements between the holders that have the ACR, or the Algoma Central Railway, and Huron Central.
Okay, I think we've got to take a break now, and we'll be right back with Michelle McLeave-Kennedy for the NDP. So we're back with Michelle McLeave-Kennedy, the NDP candidate for Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Michelle, you had been mentioning your platform, some of the pieces to your platform of the NDP. I'd like to go back to your mention of the hallway medicine. If you could just describe for our viewers what is meant by that and what the NDP is planning to do about it.
Okay, so as you're aware in Sault Ste. Marie, if you ever go up to our hospital, there's often long waits in the emergency department, and often not space for everyone to fit into a room. So for instance, I was there yesterday visiting a friend at the hospital, and there was beds in the hallway of the hospital waiting to either be triaged or waiting to get a room or waiting to go up to a room upstairs. So in the emergency room was quite packed, and there was actual patients laying in the hallway. So that's something that the NDP has said we will put money forward to end that hallway medicine. There's nothing more embarrassing than laying in a hallway, you're not feeling well as it is, and people are walking past you constantly.
So is that a matter of space, putting money towards more space, or is it a matter of more doctors?
It's actually a matter of funding to fund the beds. Our hospital does have the actual physical space for more beds. We just don't have the funding dollars for those beds. So in the past couple of governments, hospital funding has been cut significantly, and the NDP government will put money back into that to open more beds here in Sault Ste. Marie and have those people have dignity and be in a room and see a doctor and a nurse in a room without people walking back and forth past them.
I know I had a friend in the hospital having a procedure done a couple of months back, and he told me that he was in the janitor's closet. I don't think it was a janitor's closet, but he said he was in a closet at the hospital, not in a proper room. So
there has actually been people that have talked about that. There was a lady in Sudbury that was actually put in a washroom. And I mean, that's not how we ever wanted medicine to be given to any person in Ontario.
Okay, so as far as the healthcare platform with the NDP, I know there's some other exciting stuff coming if the NDP were to be in power. Would you like to speak to that, Michelle?
So the most exciting thing for me is pharmacare for everyone and the dental care for everyone. And this would be all residents of Ontario. And specifically, I have a mother that's elderly, and I never realized until I was talking to her about this when I was telling her I was going to run. And I was talking to her about dental care, and I didn't realize that after you're 65, you don't have dental care. And so this platform will allow people to have both both medication and dental. So my mom, I guess, has been considering whether she should pay for her hearing aids, her batteries for her hearing aids, and doing that kind of thing, or whether she should go to the dentist, which I find just absolutely deplorable.
Yeah, that's
in
a
a
heartbreaking
country like
decision
this.
to have to make. A lot of small business owners too find that the funds just aren't there for dental care and prescriptions. I know a lot of people, the first question they ask is, how much is a prescription? You know, and if it's an expensive one, a lot of times they're not being filled.
So the interesting thing about this program and the platform is that it's going to be much like a payroll system. So it'll be taking off, it'll be 1% of the payroll that will go toward this, but then everyone in Ontario will have benefits. So it's a good thing coming forward for all people in Ontario, and it'll make sure that everyone's covered. People that are on assistance, people that are not normally covered, part-time workers, freelance workers, anyone in Ontario will be covered by this.
As well as the small business owner
Everyone.
that's running a very tight budget just to keep their business running.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone in Ontario will be covered by this.
Again, with the hospital too as well, when people are running to the hospital for dental care, that can create a major problem.
Yes, and it's certainly a different cost. So, and by having these benefits, we'll have a healthier community, and that's what we need to build to have healthy workers.
That's exciting. I think we have to go to another break, Michelle, and we will be right back. We're back with Michelle McCleave Kennedy, the NDP candidate for Sault Ste. Marie. Michelle, the education. I think we talked about student loans and the NDP having a special program for students that are carrying heavy debt and student loans just to get their education. What's the NDP going to do about that?
So as you are aware, that is quite an issue. And the NDP has in their platform all the student loans right now going forward. So a new loan will turn into a grant. And anyone who has money owing right now, the interest will be forgiven on the loan. So it's quite exciting for people that are coming out of school with $40,000 and $50,000 in debt and still looking for a job. So
students that have existing loans or just coming out of the school system?
if they have an existing loan, the interest will be forgiven on that loan until they pay off the loan. And anyone with a new loan, like applying for a new loan, it will be turned into a grant, so that it won't be having to be repaid.
Okay, so I can't turn my credit card debt into a grant.
I wish I could do that too.
Okay. As well, the education system, there's some changes there in the works that the NDP is hoping for as well.
Yes, as an educator, I'm very excited to see the EQAO testing will be finished. It's a standardized test that we use in education to see how our students are doing. However, it's not always fair for all students, and myself working with special needs students, it's a very frustrating test for a student who has help all the way through their education, and then it comes to that test and they have only a few things to help them with the test, and they find it very frustrating and it causes them a lot of stress. So the NDP has said that we'll get rid of that test. Not that we won't have other means of measuring how the education system is doing for our students, but that's a test we'll get rid of. And
are they replacing it with another test, or are they just replacing the testing system itself?
They'll replace the testing system, and the money saved from that test alone will add so much money that can be used in other areas such as mental health and other services. So it will give us certainly a boost in education.
Excellent. Okay, we're just going to have to go to another break, and we'll be right back with Perspective and Michelle McCleave Kennedy. We're back. I'm Katherine G. MacRae. This show is Perspective, and my first guest today is Michelle McCleave Kennedy, the NDP candidate for Sault Ste. Marie. Michelle, I understand you had a seat at the table with our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau upon his visit in Sault Ste. Marie.
I did. The Prime Minister came to Sault Ste. Marie to discuss some steel issues and the steel tariffs that Trump was imposing. And so I did have a seat at that table, and we had some good conversation about how we need to keep good jobs here in Sault Ste. Marie, and how the NDP and their platform has allotted money to keep the industry going and keeping good jobs here in Sault Ste. Marie. As you're well aware, we can't afford to lose any good paying jobs here in our community.
I know we had some years there of concern with the steel plant here. And is the NDP working firsthand with the steel plant to ensure that it continues and those good jobs continue in Sault Ste. Marie with our steel plant?
The NDP has put something forward that we will be working with both the municipal government and with the steel plant and all the unions to help with what's going on with the credit protection right now that's happening at SR.
I know it's very dicey sometimes in the Soo when anything is happening at the steel plant that you know, doesn't look too good, or the price of steel goes down. It seems like the whole city tends to pull back at times. So it's very important to keep our steel plant going and viable. And so the NDP sounds like they're making that part of their platform as well with industry.
Yes, we're going to be looking at not just the steel plant, but other resources as well. So we'll be talking about the Ring of Fire, and the NDP plans on putting money forward for the Ring of Fire now, immediately. There'll be money infused into that to get things going with the Ring of Fire and getting that project in place. And we hope to keep those jobs in Northern Ontario, not putting them across in the United States as has been stated by some other parties.
Wonderful. How was it meeting Justin Trudeau?
It was exciting, actually. There was other heads of the city there as well, and so we all worked cooperatively together, which is what's so needed in Sault Ste. Marie, is everyone to work cooperatively in the same direction. And it was a very good meeting. It was a very positive meeting. Good to hear.
We're going to break, and we'll be right back with Michelle McLeave-Kennedy, NDP candidate for Sault Ste. Marie. We're back. I'm Katherine G. MacRae. You're watching Perspective. My guest is Michelle McLeave-Kennedy, the NDP candidate for Sault Ste. Marie. Michelle, you've got some big shoes to fill. And why should Sault Ste. Marie vote for you?
Well, I've been a community activist in this community for the last 30 years. I started out coaching young people in baseball, doing fundraising for them, just because I felt there was a need for them to have something to do. I've also coached figure skating, sat on the Rotary board, sat with the United Way on their food security program, and done a variety of other volunteer board things in Sault Ste. Marie. Because of the change that needs to come in Sault Ste. Marie, we need to have things that are going to diversify our community. As I'm an injured worker and had to try and navigate that whole legislation system that the Liberals put in place, which is actually quite a frustrating system to try and navigate. There's been times where I've found it difficult to make ends meet with the high hydro prices and other things that are going on, and I just can't imagine what's going to happen to Sault Ste. Marie if Ford gets in and we have $6 billion in cuts. I can't imagine the loss of social services we'll have here in town. And I know from where I work, from the education perspective, it would just be terrible for the system that I work in. So it motivated me to want to run. I've been sitting as a Labour Council president for a long time here in Sault Ste. Marie, and I sit on the Ontario Federation of Labour as a vice president as well. I've been lobbying the government for a number of years to get the $15 in fairness, pharmacare for everyone through the labor unions, and it just was the right time for me to come forward and run as a candidate here in Sault Ste. Marie. I'm very excited to be running. I think I have some good qualities to bring to Sault Ste. Marie, and I have passion that will certainly carry me forward to be the next MPP and be your representative in Queen's Park.
So you're well versed in the needs of this city and what we need here in Sault Ste. Marie, and you're willing to work hard for that.
I am. I'm a very hard worker, and if anyone's ever worked with me in the education system, they will certainly attest to that, as well as my colleagues on the different labor fronts that I've sat on in the city. So I've been volunteering for a number of years, 10 years specifically, here for labor issues in Sault Ste. Marie. And I think we need to collectively work together, and I can work hard for the people in Sault Ste. Marie as your next MPP at Queen's Park.
So if you had one thing that you could leave our viewers with to keep in mind in one succinct sentence to take away from this show, why they should vote for Michelle McLeave-Kennedy for NDP candidate, Sault Ste. Marie, what would that be?
I want to build a healthier community in Sault Ste. Marie, make it easier for all of us to live, and make it affordable for everyone in Sault Ste. Marie.
Great. I thank you very much for joining me on the show today, Perspective. It's our first show. You're the first guest, and I wish you well with the election coming up June 7th. It's coming up very quickly. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for watching Perspective. I'm Katherine G. MacRae, and we'll see you again next week.